Your event is starting. Alright, welcome to the Humane Line Live, episode 88. 88 weeks of this nonsense. Alright, so we got a couple topics to go over here, but we'll just kind of go through the list. First one, these are in no particular order. Well, let's talk about the ice firebombing first, because that's kind of, I guess that's kind of the, not more recent, what's the opposite of more recent? That's the furthest back story out of all of these. And so this has kind of been going around for almost a week now. And it's the crazy thing is that this is what is the update for it, is people are back there protesting at that exact same facility.
They're in support of this guy.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so for those who aren't aware, or, you know, if anybody actually is watching this, a guy went to an ICE facility, was firebombing cars and propane tanks at the facility. Had something occurred, had a car been set off, had propane tanks, had the facility set on fire, well, he would have burned alive some of the migrants that he's trying to help. The other thing is he was armed with an AR-15 that he shouldn't have had, and crickets.
So the AR-15, why was he on a restricted list or something?
Yeah, something. I don't know if it was a felony or a domestic violence, or something along those lines. It was a previous offense on his record where he should not have been allowed to have a gun. Now, anytime this sort of thing happens in the past, people are like, oh, we need more gun restriction and stuff, and where is the media? Usually they would look at it and say, oh, look at this, let's parade this out for weeks on end, because it's a big... No, it's because they know this guy's Antifa, he's on their side, they are, if anything, they're supporting him. And we're like, dude, where's your anti-gun rhetoric?
They can't promote, because they'll either have to denounce Antifa on the firebombing and the AR-15 in order to stick with their gun control, or they have to be in support, at which case everyone's going to say, yeah, this is a double standard. Why is it okay for him to bomb federal agents and bring an AR-15, and yet you guys have been asking to ban AR-15s for years now?
Yeah, it's they chose the double standard, because, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards, right?
Yep. Pretty much. If anybody's listening, I am definitely pro-gun, and I'm just fine with the AR-15. I think it's an awesome rifle.
Yeah. So I'm not anti-gun either, but it just seems like that should have been the, oh, hey, here's a classic example that you guys like to dogpile on in order to parade your anti-gun, and yet this story has been overwhelming or underwhelmingly? I think overwhelmingly underreported. Is that the way to say that? Yeah, it's ridiculous how little coverage this pretty major event. You would think, the injustice of cops shooting a person, and I'm hearing very little of that rhetoric, but there are people saying what they have covered it. It's all like, oh, this guy's actions were justified. He thought he had no other alternative, and I'm like, and he even mentioned concentration camps, and he wrote a little manifesto / suicide note.
So is this something that should be pinned on AOC for even bringing that up? Because no one thought of them as concentration camp
until she made it.
They were the same makeshift holding areas. So if she's the one that brought that up, is that her fault?
Well, if she was a conservative, then, yeah, the media would be blasting her and condemning her and be like, oh, your rhetoric caused this. But since she's on their side, crickets again.
But, the logic is not there. What is his purpose of trying to catch the building on fire? Because if it actually succeeded before these guys could have taken him down, he would have burned however many immigrants that got in there. It's not like they can get out.
Yeah.
They would have all been burned alive.
Depending on how fast the blaze goes up and how, fire-resistant the facility, we don't know. I have no idea what the facility.
Maybe he's
Yeah,
thinking if
I
he
mean they
comes,
might have
they-
fire. Yeah, but considering you're talking about explosions of propane tanks and other facilities like that, there's probably gonna, if there's a huge explosion that ends up collapsing part of the building, well, that's gonna kill people and they're not gonna have time to react. Doesn't matter how good their fire suppression systems are. Explosions. Yeah, the other thing is bullets. He's got an AR-15. As far as I know, I don't think he fired any shots with his weapon. But if people are fleeing a building that's on fire and he's shooting, I don't know what. But thankfully, it didn't come to that because they shot him and put him out of his misery before he could do any permanent damage and all that sort of thing. So I guess that's the other part of the story as why it's kind of being brushed over by a lot of the mainstream media, is the only person who died was the culprit, the guy who started the incident. But if they do talk about this particular story, they're like, oh, this poor guy. They portray him as a victim, as if, oh, this was unavoidable and he had to do it because he thought he was doing what was right. No, he's a crazy person who is following the rhetoric that you guys keep spewing, and the people that were interviewed surrounding him and knew him beforehand, they talked about this as being, yeah, this was a suicide by cop incident.
So this is the thing that doesn't make sense, right? AOC mentions that it's a concentration camp in one of her little Instagram or whatever streams, filming herself at home, just hey, these are concentration camps and blah blah blah, and they're separating families and children.
And they're drinking out of toilets.
Around for decades.
Yeah.
It's not like Trump became president and he said on day 2, hey, let's build concentration camps.
Oh, yeah.
None of that. This is from back when Clinton signed everything into law. They had the facilities. They just weren't being used to maximum capacity. Trump decided, hey, let's enforce the law that the Democrats put into place. So this has nothing to do with Trump. This is nothing new and it's nothing recent. But the issue is all you hear on mainstream media is bashing of these places. But what they're not fully covering is that AOC didn't want funding for any of this.
Yeah. She voted against funding.
Paying for more food, for clothing, for, better facilities to help detain these people while we're vouching, hey, trying to verify, hey, is this a real asylum case? Trump's been pushing for this for the better part of this year, if not before that. We had the whole government shutdown around Christmas, shortly after. He's been fighting to get better funding because the facilities down there are just swamped. They're way too crowded.
Yeah, you're talking about an increase in migration, like it's 5 to at least 5 times of what it normally would be. And it started like in the past couple of years. You're talking about going from about 100,000 per year to up to 500,000 per year.
Yeah, they're doing like 50 to 75,000 per month.
Yeah, it's like a ridiculous increase in how many are coming across, and these facilities.
As if Trump all of a sudden became some sort of dictator. How we've always been open borders, which has never been the case, and yet they're touting that as we're a country of immigrants. People just walk in on a daily basis. No, they don't. That hasn't ever been the case. The people who are just walking in have always been illegal, and it's always broken the law. That's how it's always been. For some reason, when Trump became president, things magically flipped in their head. This was like BC, AD, and then PT post-Trump. I don't know. We're in some new timeline. But when that's all they're preaching on mainstream media, then you're going to get nut jobs like this guy who firebombed the facility because they don't understand that AOC actually voted against trying to get better facilities and better equipment, better supplies for these detainees.
Yeah, so there's two options here.
Ride down and get the border secure so people are less incentivized to take this bad journey across the desert from the Rio Grande to wind up in a detention facility. He's just trying to stop it all. Yeah, that's good for everybody.
Yeah, so there's two options. The options that Democrats claim they want, which is better facilities that can house these nice facilities for all of them to come over and, basically live in a hotel while they're being in process because they're asylum seekers, and they can stay in these facilities for months on end before they're actually allowed into the U.S. And that's what Democrats claim they want. But that requires about $5 billion in funding for these facilities to be able to handle all of the migrants that are coming in right now. But they shut that down because, why would I give funding to facilities that treat people so poorly because they're underfunded? Doesn't, yeah.
And they don't treat them poorly. You know who's treated poorly? That guy and his son that died trying to swim across the river.
Yeah.
That poor people they found in the desert, that's treated pretty poorly. They did that to themselves. This is what we're trying to avoid.
Yes, and that's the option that's the option they pretend to want and then vote against, is the better facilities and more. Pretend they want and then vote against it. The other thing is that's not a long-term solution. That's $5 billion right now to get our facilities up to code, and then 2-3 years down the road, we need $10 billion, $15 billion, however many. It's just going to keep going on. It's an ongoing expense because we have to keep constantly renovating these facilities to either, not only to increase their capacity, but also increase the amenities and the amount of food and all that sort of stuff. It's very expensive to keep these things around for what they're doing. The more logical solution, which is Trump's original proposed solution, is increased border security to reduce the number of people crossing and then being caught to be, to go to these detainment facilities.
Block off the entire border to where they are forced through a port of entry.
Yes. And that...
And for asylum seekers, we've got detention facilities. Otherwise, everyone else can just go somewhere.
So,
we have to maintain a quota that is manageable to where they can be acclimated, they can be absorbed into the country and be, fully become a U.S. citizen. They get the attitude, the spirit. This becomes their country.
Yeah.
So I guess somewhat related news, there was an ICE facility, I think in Colorado, and there was a big protest, and they ended up yanking down the American flag, spray painted all over it.
No, it wasn't in Colorado. That was.
I thought it was.
I think
Colorado.
that was. Was it Colorado? I thought that was Florida. Maybe.
But
yeah,
people cheering for that. This is the United States, not Mexico. If they want to go to Mexico, they could stay in Mexico.
Yeah.
Where they just passed through.
Yeah. So they
walked through that entire country to come here, and then say, "Now let's raise the Mexican flag." What?
You just left Mexico. If Mexico's so great, stay there. But yeah, the crazy thing.
There were no detention facilities, and
yeah. So you know the Star Spangled Banner, right? I mean, clearly, yeah, that's the national anthem. You should.
Yeah.
The flag the first stanza ends with "and the flag was still there," because when a base gets taken over or a fort gets taken over, they take down the enemy's flag and they raise their own in its spot. That's what happened. That has happened throughout history. Every time, we took the place over, it's now ours. We raise our flag over it. That's what they're saying about this ICE facility. Like, this is now property of Mexico. What?
Somewhat of a side tangent, but still related to this story, right? The First Amendment protects your freedom of speech and your freedom to voice your opinion, even if it's not just a voice, it's display. That's what allows people to burn the flag in protest without any sort of legal repercussions.
Yes.
Do you think something like this is covered under First Amendment expression, or is this more akin to treason or war?
It would be covered under freedom of expression if it was their stuff. It's somebody else's stuff. This is claiming someone else's property as your own. This is theft. It crossed that line because free speech involves things that you have. Like you have the freedom. Yeah, you have the freedom of speech to go out on a street corner and speak your mind without repercussions. You don't have freedom of speech to go into someone else's concert hall, take the mic, and then start speaking your mind there. Because at that point, you're using their stuff and you're commandeering it as your own, that's not covered under free speech. This is going to their facility, taking down their stuff and putting your stuff in its place and claiming it as your own.
Yeah, okay, so kind of same laws we got for graffiti or defacement.
Yes. Yeah.
Same.
If it's your house and you've got a U.S. flag and you take down the U.S. flag and put a Mexican, okay, that's covered under First Amendment. It's your stuff. You're expressing yourself. Stupidly, when you go over to your neighbor's house, take down their flag and put the Mexican flag up, no, that's not protected. That crosses a line out of free speech into outright theft or at least trespassing at the minimum. But considering
So
your
what I understand about that is why deface the American flag?
I don't know.
If we have a lot of Mexican immigrants or South American immigrants coming in, let's just take the legal ones, right? The ones who waited in line, they did their due diligence, got their paperwork filed, everything checked out, they're welcomed in, now they can become nationalized citizens. Wouldn't it be better to have kind of like both flags if it's a highly Hispanic community? If that's kind of where a lot of them came from, to say, hey, this is where we came from and we're proud of our Hispanic heritage, but we're here in the United States because I want to be a United States citizen. I don't think I have a problem with that if they want to have, display their heritage, but still say, I'm here in the United States and I believe in the United States. Both flags can fly side by side if it's a Hispanic community. I don't see a problem with that. But taking one down to raise the other up, that's a clear sign of, screw the United States. This is now either territory of Mexico or this is being taken over by Mexicans or I don't know. But that is definitely not pro-U.S. That's not pro-integration into society.
No.
That's not people coming in and say, hey, we just want a better life. That's saying we want to take over.
And again, yeah. Yeah, and we've talked about this previously, but it's the idea of, hey, that place I just left, I came here to escape that. Now let's do all of the things that made that country what it is. Let's do all of them here. What sense does that make? You're like, what? So all the things that you just did back there to make your country a place you wanted to leave and flee, you want to now do them here, and you expect that's not going to turn this into a cesspool that you want to flee and leave. It doesn't... It's amazing how many times that occurs, and you're like, wait, how do you not put the two and two together and be like, and realize, oh, all of the things that we did back there is why that place was such a crappy place to live. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that would make a good segue onto the extra point I brought up before the stream started. So, said you are aware of Trump's tweets?
Yes.
Like you weren't aware of the conference with the squad?
Yeah, that's the squad is new to me because that's
okay. Omar, AOC, Talib, and what's the other? I don't even know who that fourth lady's name is. But she's a nobody.
Yeah, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and you're talking so
AOC, and there's a fourth lady, and I've heard her name, but like twice in my life ever. She's just kind of lumped in there. But it's for women of color, right? So Trump basically tweeted back, if you don't like it here, why don't you go back where you came from?
He specifically...
Go back to your country, fix the problems that they've got over there, and then come back and show us how you did it. Stop complaining.
Yeah. Well, he specifically talked about people that are from other countries, which out of those four is only Ilhan Omar. And that actually... Like, anybody reading that tweet would be like, yeah, he's talking about Ilhan Omar because she's the only one that fits this description. That it's somebody from another country that is a crappy place to live, that is very corrupt, that mistreats their own people, comes over here, takes some of their values and applies them in the U.S. and praises some of the stuff that the other country does, and then condemns the U.S. for not being this, this bastion of perfection. And you're like, but the place that you're from is worse. If you've got an issue, go over there, apply your stuff over there, and then show it's how it's done. It's kind of like this is America. If you don't like America because you got all these problems with it, go to a place that you can change or that you that does live up to your ideals, or what it's that kind of notion. It's like, well, go back to where you think is better, because you're trying to make the U.S. like where you're from. Why not just go back to where you're from?
So there were two press conferences after that series of tweets where Trump made that statement. Trump had one where he said, well, what I'm saying is, if you don't like it here, then leave. I don't think anybody's going to miss you. Go fix your problems over there from this country that you say is so great, even though it's a crappy place. Fix your problems there and then come back and tell us how it's done.
Yeah.
If you don't love it, then leave.
Ayanna Presley? Who?
That's her name, Presley. Is she from like Minnesota? No, not Minnesota. Where is she
Massachusetts, from? But who is she?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've heard her name and just lumped in. I guess because she's a congresswoman of color, but she's done nothing. She has no real voice. It's just one of those identitarian, get into that identity politics. So because she's a woman of color, they just lump her in, and now all of a sudden she's important, even though she has said absolutely nothing of importance whatsoever.
All right.
So, and then they had a press conference where basically they spent the whole time just trying to bash Trump and say how he's a racist.
He's obviously racist for telling people that if they don't like the U.S., then they should go to places they do like.
But, so the issue is, those are the younger up-and-coming Congress people. And they seem to despise the way the U.S. works, and despise the history of the country, despise the U.S. in general.
Yeah.
They have this idea that it was built off of slavery, as if that's what made America great. And it wasn't.
No, it was the ideal. It was actually the contrary idea. The primary idea behind what the founding fathers did was the idea that all men are created equal. That's the starting premise of the Declaration for Independence. All men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Now, the Declaration of Independence that all of those men signed, they're like, yes, like, we disagree about certain things, but this document, we agree with what's here. Now, there was a bunch of them that disputed the idea of slavery. Many of them wanted slavery and the abolition of slavery to be included in the Declaration of Independence, and they were they're assuaged. What's the word right there? They were told, well, we can't do that right now, but once we get a constitution, or once we get a federal government, once we establish a new government, this is just, all this does is separate us from England and says, hey, we're not a part of them, we're something new and something sovereign. Once we iron out the details, then we'll put in slavery, the abolishment of slavery. Yeah, it's kind of an empty promise, as politicians are usually. But many of the people who wrote or signed and helped help with some of the ideas behind the Declaration of Independence, they were firmly in agreement with that all men are created equal. That undermines slavery completely, and you can't have all men are created equal and have this system where you're treating people unequally. And that's why a lot of the founding fathers were anti-slavery, based on, and you're like, you can't have both of those ideas together simultaneously. The all men are created equal undermines the system and eventually led to the abolition of slavery.
But to push that point a little more forward, where that was their intention from the start, their hands were kind of tied.
Yes.
The South
and Jefferson's
Union, they would not have signed the Constitution if there weren't certain amendments that allowed them to keep what they had. And I got in a debate, well, not really debate, it's just kind of comments back and forth on YouTube video about that 3/5 amendment.
Oh, yeah.
And they are saying how that was racist, they're treating black people as 3/5. And I pointed out, I was like, read it. Do you see black people mentioned anywhere? They're not mentioned at all in that amendment. It mentions free people versus non-free people. People who are free and U.S. citizens are counted as one. And, as a representative. That's how you get how much representation you can have within the House.
Well, the other side of that is, Crowder, for the 4th, as part of his 4th of July kind of week of video, Crowder was interviewing that one guy from, I forget his name, He runs like a kind of a history
And like
museum.
short shorts with
Yeah. Anyway, the country and all that. But he was talking about the Three-Fifths Compromise. The people who wanted their slaves counted for representation, like, oh, hey, we have this many people in our area, we get this many representatives for our state. Those people were asking for that. And when the counter was pushed back to be like, well, if you're going to count them for your representation in Congress, they should also get a vote on things in Congress. And they said, oh, no vote. No. We want to count them for the purposes of having more representatives in Congress from our state. But we don't want to have the people that we're counting get a say on how things are run. What? So that's the Three-Fifths Compromise. Is like, okay, you can count them for population, but since you're not giving them a say on how the country is run, you can only count them for 3/5 of a person.
And on the flip side, in the North, where there were free black people, they weren't slaves. They counted as one.
They counted as one, and they were also and in certain places they were also given a vote.
So
allowed to hold political positions.
And the way the wording and everything was set up, never did they mention race. It was not brought up in the Declaration or the Constitution or any of the amendments. It's not about race.
Yeah. It was
get rid of the slave mentality and say all men are equal and all men are free. But they couldn't do it at the founding of the country. But in less than 100 years, bam, Civil War, got our way, everyone's free. Now we're all on the same playing field.
Yeah, and the it's kind of funny. I'm surprised they even got the 3/5 compromise to go through. But it's the slaveholders wanted those people counted for population for representation, but had they actually given, had it gone with a vote, like, oh, well, if you're going to count them for representation, they get a say, and the slaves are not going to vote for things that keeping slavery around. To me, it seems like the ball was in the abolitionist court in that instance, where they're like, well, if you're going to count them for representation, they get a vote, and that should have been the end of it. That should have been the end of it. It'd be like, okay, you're either not going to count them for population, and then you just get the representation for the people that you have that are citizens, and the North would overwhelmingly get to control Congress and get the. Well, I think maybe that is why it kind of had a compromise, because that would have kind of led to an earlier split of the country.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We couldn't do that with England right there just after the Revolutionary War. We had to have some cohesive of the country.
And okay, well, because the North would end up controlling Congress because of their numbers, and, okay, they would end up winning pretty much and dictating how the country goes, and then the South would have rebelled against the North a lot sooner than the Civil War. We would have had that, decades sooner, or if not, when was the Civil War? That was 18...
I think it was 1864?
60, yeah. So, rather than being in 1864, that probably would have been bumped up about 50 years sooner.
Right? Is that 64?
Yeah.
To 68?
Yeah, I was going to say the 50s, but I think it's 60s.
Oh, no. I'm off. 61 to 65.
Yeah.
That's where I got 4 from.
Yeah. Okay, so 1860.
Maybe that was Gettysburg.
Yeah. So it would have been probably around the 18-teens when the Civil War happened and the country was just getting started. That would have been the end of the United States. So that's why they did the 3/5 compromise. All right.
Yeah. But that side tangent, going back on track, this country isn't founded off of everything that they claim to hate. There seems to be an ideology.
No, that's
progressives. But how can you represent a country, be part of its Congress, its government, trying to dictate laws and legislation, and hate the country?
That's one of those. Ilhan Omar is representing Somalian Muslims, and then AOC is representing the Justice Democrats and Socialists, which
nobody in her district.
Nobody in her districts. Yeah.
She's
okay, well, it's also for Ilhan Omar. Her polls are in the single digits. Like, her favors in the poll, like, yeah, single digit numbers. AOC is a little bit higher, but she's still, like, what, 30 points or something like that? And you're like, considering how much the media has been putting her name out there and all that sort of thing, you would think it would be a lot higher. It's like, she's...
Yeah. There was a...
Yeah. She's not polling favorably.
Where they said 75% of people polled had heard of AOC, but she had a 25% approval rating out of those people that had heard of her. And Ilhan Omar, it was like 52% had heard of her, and 9% were on her side. Or thought positively.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
This was, after Obama and things didn't get fixed, I think the country was still trying to push for this diversity thing, thinking this is the way we need to go. And so this is another reason why I brought up that whole Twitter back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think Trump, and I've actually heard this from a couple of different channels where there's that meme Trump's always playing 4D chess.
Yeah.
Some of them are actually starting to admit it and say, you know what, I think that's not just a meme. I think he's actually doing that. So, you know what else happened this week? Trump passed a new piece of legislation that said you cannot seek asylum here if you pass through another country.
Yeah, you can't chain migrate now. You can't go like, well, I'm from Venezuela, and I'm going to pass through Mexico to get to the United States. No, you can't do that.
You got asylum in Mexico when they, for some reason, kicked you out, then you come here. You don't show that you went to seek asylum in another country before coming here, which we're the only countries touching us is Mexico and Canada.
Yeah.
You have to go through somewhere else before you get
here. Yeah, or you have to come through a port. Like, if you're flying from Africa to the U.S., okay, we're the first place you came to. All right, that's the way you're supposed to do it, through an official port, and we'll get into that in a second here, because that is another thing. I guess a caveat on this. I forgot to put it in the notes, but yeah, if you come through an airport, that's an official port of entry, and you're from a country and you claiming asylum, hey, that's the way to do it. You haven't broken any laws. You're not going to the detention center. You're gonna get processed the normal way. That's okay. You can do that. You can go from a country in Africa and do that. You can't go from a country in Africa, go to Brazil, hop on a train, or hike your way through Mexico, and then come to the U.S. and be like, okay, where's my... I'm here to seek asylum. That is, yeah.
People from, where is it, either Saudi Arabia or Iran that went through to, like, Brazil, and then are walking their way up. How do we get Middle Eastern immigrants from Mexico? What the...
Yeah, well, I mean, some of them that were caught in this process, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you guys are terrorists. Oh, you got us. Yeah, there's like a group of them. And you're like, that's, yeah, that...
So, and tying in with that whole 4D chess, so we've got a couple things at play here. We've got the squad, which is the four, congresswomen of color, and they have kind of been going super, super far left, extreme progressivism, or even Nancy Pelosi is basically saying, shut up. You are disgracing the Democrats. You're making us look like fools. I know you got a bunch of people who follow you on Twitter, but you're just 4 votes and nobody else is voting with you guys at all. You have no platform. Just cool it. After this Twitter battle, Nancy Pelosi actually had to go defend them. What people are thinking is Trump purposely is doing this to put those 4 up front and say, this is the face of the Democrats. They will always be the face, and there's nothing you guys can do about it, and anytime they start slipping in the background, I'm going to bring them right back up front, and you have to support them. So that was one part of this 4D chess.
Yeah, that's actually...
going on this week, that's been all over the news. There is no news about the asylum-seeking bill to end asylum.
But it wasn't a bill. That was an executive order, because that was...
Order,
Yeah.
So...
That's perfectly within his realm of power.
That has been almost completely ignored in mainstream media.
Yeah, I believe it is going...
The press conference, and then down in the corner they mentioned that executive order.
Yeah.
Like, headline nobody would read.
Yeah. So Congress can't do anything about that, but the courts might do something about that. As far as I know, no court has, nobody has sued or anything about it.
If you're seeking asylum,
you're
going to go to the closest, safest place.
Yeah.
And if you're intentionally passing through 2, 3, 4 different countries just to get to the United States, that's gone beyond seeking asylum.
And then you don't get in your detainment center, and you just get like, hey, GTFO.
No, get in line with the rest of the regular immigrants.
Yeah.
This is not asylum.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's gonna reduce the number of people in our facilities right now, because a lot of them are coming from Honduras. Like that migrant that caravan was all from Honduras, like thousands of people, and you're like, yeah, okay, oh, you're from Honduras. Did you apply at Mexico and were denied? Oh, you didn't even bother? Okay, yeah, stop taking our stuff, get out.
Right now, Mexico is actually on board with that, saying, yeah, we'll take the asylum seekers, because if they don't play ball, Trump is already saying we're going to pass these
sanctions
tariffs, and you guys are cut off. And I don't know. I'm still iffy on whether the tariffs work, but
well, here's the thing: is he's never actually implemented them. I mean, there's always been the threat of these sanctions or these tariffs. When you look at how many actually get applied on goods and services, it's non-existent. They are a bargaining chip. They're like, hey, if you do this, I'm going to do this. If you don't do that, well, hey, then I'll play ball. It's kind of, it's a
bluff out there, but he can cover the bluff and say,
yeah,
I'll put this there and you guys can comply, but just know that I will put the tariffs if you don't comply. But he hasn't had to so far, I guess.
Yeah, so, I guess maybe the way I'm thinking about this, and maybe this is a bad analogy, is being the big chip lead at a poker table. When everybody else has, like, should I limp in on this blind? And you're like, really want to do that? I've got this big pile of chips. If you go all in, I can call you. And it's kind of like, I've got 2 twos. 2 twos is not worth it. I'll wait. You're right. I'll pass. And then he just sweeps the board. It's the, what? He could call you and he could lose, and then you'd gain a little bit. But in the end, you're like, is it really worth risking everything on one hand? Because he can more than cover that. No, it's not worth it. All right, whatever. I'll let you walk. You can have it. It's not worth putting my money and putting my neck out there. That's what he's using, that tool very effectively because of the U.S.'s position as the big chip lead at the table.
Yep. That's something that popped up this week, is why I've been hearing more people say that me now back on the squad. Pelosi was trying to squat because they are a disgrace.
Yeah, they make everyone look bad and stupid. Oh, okay. So considering they're a disgrace, I do have this one thing to pull up here. I don't know if you've seen this. Again, audio doesn't play through the Hangout, but this will play on the stream.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their...
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his family.
Mr. Holman, with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
Oh, dude.
The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
That is amazing. Yeah. So, this clip is from a former ICE director.
I did see that.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I'm hitting the wrong button here. Yeah, dude, yeah. Because I'm surprised that she was reading talking points. Like, those are the same talking points I keep seeing on Twitter and keep hearing on MS. I'm like, and then he's like, yeah. I'm like, yes, exactly. That's exactly the counter to them, and just shuts her down, and then you can see her kind of stammering, like, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting this at all. You're like, yeah, that's... how did you not see this coming?
The funny thing is, I don't know whose channel I was watching, but they brought up the beginning of that clip where she's like, so basically you're advocating for separation of children.
Oh, yeah, so I will play the full clip. It's like for... Yeah, it's...
Video. So stupid. We're going to do that to our own citizens.
Yeah, it's like a
driving with a kid in the back seat. Your kid's taken from you.
Yeah, it's like a 4-minute clip. I can play the whole thing. Yeah, this one does go over the whole thing. Yeah, here. Okay. Well, I'll play the whole thing. It's really good. This guy was between Barr and this guy, like
Mr. Chair, I was looking.
Yeah, I'm saying I did see the clip. I ended up watching it all, but after her comment, I paused it, and it just started ranting to myself in my own room. I'm like, that's so stupid. We already do that for all of our citizens. You commit a
Where there was
crime,
an-
you don't keep your kids.
Yeah.
You go to jail, they go either to a foster home or to someone else who can take care of them, other relatives. Your kids don't go with you to jail, and just because you have kids doesn't mean you get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
You commit a
Official
crime,
recommendation
you're separated from your
to,
kids. That's
quote,
your fault.
Pursue prosecution. of
And
all
when I played the
amenable-
video and he said the exact same thing, I'm like, whoops, because that's what makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's how our citizens are dealt with, and that's how illegal immigrants are going to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Same rules
Adults
across the board.
Cross our border, quote, illegal.
Yeah.
The board, so I looked at
So
this
she
memo.
goes.
It
She
says
talks
here-
for a bit about how she found the memo, which is completely irrelevant. And I was like the whole build up to this is like, dude, why did? So, I guess maybe I should go. So she talks for like 30 seconds on how she found the memo, as if that's important to anybody. Like, it's not. It's something her and her staff are like, oh, we're so good at this. We're so good. It's like somebody humble bragging about a paper they wrote in high school and got a B on. You're like, dude what? Like, dude, I don't care. It's people proud of stupid accomplishments that pretty much anybody else could do. It's like, yeah, oh, this was hard to find, and we found the source of it. Just say you found the source of it and then give us the source instead of spending all this time building it up as if it was this long, arduous process. I'm like, yeah, that's what you do when you're researching.
From
Wait, have you guys never researched anything in your freaking lives before? Are you that?
Yeah, I mean,
inept?
that's kind of the impression I got with that clip, because you can
Yeah.
kind of just see it in her face when he came back with his retort, and she just kind of, you see some steam coming out.
Yeah.
You
So
didn't
she's
know,
like,
well, what am I supposed to do with that? Because I can't say he's wrong. That is what we do already.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So she.
yourself.
Yeah. So here's the setup for
I'd be happy-
what the
There
memo,
were
how
three
she found the
different
memo,
options.
but
This initiative would pursue prosecution of all amenable adults, including those presenting with a family unit. Mr. Homan, your name is on this. Is this correct?
yeah. There we go.
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you are the author of the family separation policy.
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not that.
Okay, the thing is, she just cited that there's 3 people's name on it. And they're like, yeah, and you signed it. And he's like, yeah, I signed it. He's like, one of 3 people who signed off on it. Oh, but you're the author of it. That's like, John Hancock, are you the signer? Are you the author of this declaration? No, I didn't write it. Thomas Jefferson did. He's famous for... Like, how do you not understand how this works? Is yes, somebody else comes up with it, and then he signs off on it. Yeah. And he's like, yes, this has my recommendation. I approve this. I made the final decision. But he didn't. Yeah, sorry.
Author, but you signed the memo.
It's kind of semantic,
A
but
zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on family for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm
okay.
saying
Yeah,
is-
so right there, she didn't understand what exactly he was saying. Like, there are multiple memos like this that probably come through a person like this desk either on a daily basis or a weekly basis, where they're like, yeah, okay, here's what we've come up with, here's the proposed solutions, this is how we would implement them, okay, now which one of these would you recommend the most? And then he's like, okay, yeah, I like what you did here, you're good here. Okay, we're recommending this one, and then signs off on it. And then passes that on up to the person who gets the final decision. Which in this case was Nielsen. Okay, that's kind of typical management process. And he's saying, yeah, we did that constantly. Like, okay, well, next week, okay, well, what are some other... they either did something that we didn't agree with or whatever. Okay, let's come up with some other kind of proposal. Like, okay, or we've got new information or something like that. Okay, here's another recommendation. These are 3 things that we could do right now based on what you've asked for or based on changes in the situation or changes in the budget, whatever. Okay, here's our new recommendation. They can keep doing this ad infinite. Like, that. Who knows how many come through this particular cycle of, based on our analysis, this is our recommendation. Okay. He's saying he has done this multiple times, and yes, he signed off on that one. And she's like, oh, okay, but you only gave 3 options. I'm like, on that particular memo, there were 3 options. And then he chose the best of what he thought was the best of the 3. But how many other memos came after that superseded that with like, oh, hey, you want a better solution? Here's a better solution. Oh, you want a different solution? Here's a different solution. Yeah, so that was kind of his answer. And then she's like, oh, but there's only 3, but you recommended this one. Yeah, sorry. That was when I first heard this. I was like, oh, she's so stupid. How?
This is not the only paper where we give the secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommend a 0 tolerance.
I'm sorry, that clip was the recommendation of the recommendations of the many recommendations you recommended. Oh, dude, it's...
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from
If
their
I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman, with
family.
all due respect,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be
legal
elected for another
assignees
term.
are not charged with any crime.
Oh, dude, the way she says that with such a sure, because I've talked to people like that on Twitter, and I'm like, what? No, they definitely committed a crime. They are allowed to seek asylum status after having committed the crime of crossing the border illegally. Just because they can seek asylum status doesn't mean they didn't break any laws. Like, you can cross the street at a non-designated space and then go and buy an ice cream cone. But that doesn't mean you didn't break the law by jaywalking. It's kind of like I'm allowed to buy this ice cream cone. Like, yeah, the ice cream cone's completely... You crossed the street at a non-designated area, you could have caused a traffic... Or you held up traffic... Yeah. So that's probably a bad example, but... You know, if you've done something illegal, and like, oh, but I'm perfectly allowed in this United States to buy an ice cream cone. It's like, yeah, but you just blocked traffic to get here to get your ice cream cone. You're not exempt from the nuisance you just caused. Sure, you can buy all the ice cream you want, but you didn't do it in a legal manner. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I'll say differently, they're not supposed to be here in the first place.
Yeah. Well, no, because what he's... Yeah.
They aren't supposed to be roaming free within this country. They're just not supposed to be here until we say it's okay.
Well, the reason that provision is in there is because some people might be fleeing for their lives, and if they go to a designated port, that might be where the people who are chasing them or trying to kill them would look for them, right? If you're like, okay, well, they gotta come through here, alright, we'll just wait at this gate, and then when they come past us, we'll just pick them up before they can claim asylum, and, you know, off them in the streets. So there is a provision like, okay, we may have a situation where somebody doesn't trust the ports or can't get to them, but it still wants to seek asylum in the U.S. They cross the border illegally and then can claim asylum. But not hundreds of thousands at, you know, these people that, like, what? How are you fearing for your life? Because you're poor in your other country? Yeah, that's not legitimate asylum. That's not how you're supposed to seek asylum. You're supposed to seek asylum at a regular port. You're not under any major threat. Your life isn't threatened. You're not, you know, being chased by thugs or your government. The provision is there as a in case of emergency. It's the in case of emergency if your government is trying to kill you and you cross the border into the U.S. and seek asylum. We're not like, oh, you cross the border, bye-bye, go back there where you get your head cut off. That's because it's the entire reason that policy is in. And that policy, they actually give an explanation. It's like, oh, this is... like, I went through and read this because somebody stupidly linked it thinking it would support their argument that, oh, see, it says right here that you can claim asylum after crossing the border. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't exempt you from crossing the border illegally. And it says right here that it describes a situation that someone would be in where this would make sense for them to do. And it never says that they are exempt from breaking the legal border crossing law.
Most of the people that are claiming asylum, like the vast majority, do not qualify for asylum.
Yes.
So by crossing the border illegally, claiming asylum, and they actually don't even qualify, that just means they broke the law.
Yeah, they just broke the law, and that's it. So even in the policy that is the official stance when it comes to this, it never says that you are exempt from breaking the law. As far as the illegal crossing, it just says, hey, we're not going to turn you over to the people who are going to kill you if you successfully achieve asylum. Now, you might get asylum and then a slap on the wrist for entering the country illegally. Okay. Oh, that's, you might have some kind of fine or some kind of, whatever. It's not, you're not going to be exempt from the punishment of breaking the border law. That's still going to apply, even if you were kind of like, oh, I had to do this in an emergency situation. It's like, yeah, okay, that's, yeah, you were legitimately fearing for your life. Okay, you're granted asylum. All right, but you did cross the border illegally. You broke our laws, and if you're trying to, follow our laws, we do have to, there's a reason we have laws in the first place, and there are punishments for those laws. If we start exempting everybody from the punishments of those laws, the law is meaningless. So, yeah. All right.
When you're in the country illegally is violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, go to the port of entry, do the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the memo is submitted to the record for review.
Yeah, I was like, the memo was submitted. Like, who? That memo is completely meaningless. Like, the whole fact that she brought it up as if there was some kind of like, oh, look what I found. I'm like, well, okay, that doesn't mean it's, yeah. And they're like, I'm filing this. It's officially going into our documentation. Okay, it was already something people were widely aware of, that this is a policy. No one has denied that is the policy. Who cares if this guy is the originator of it? If she had just asked him, hey, did you at one time recommend that this become the policy to Secretary Nielsen? He would have been like, yeah. No need to like get the official memo and dig into this. He like, oh yeah, I signed that. That was one of the things I recommended because I thought it would save lives. Oh, I'm gonna submit this. This is official. This is important. That's what. Oh, dude, we were just talking about that a couple weeks ago. Like, right, the emperor, or not the emperor, the king in Alice in Wonderland. Write this down. It's very unimportant. That's
yeah.
It's very unimportant. Write that down.
I don't know. She just seems to come off as like kind of one of those dumb teenagers who thinks they know more than the parents.
Yeah, and then the parents like, yeah, dude.
They haven't lived enough life to understand that. No, that's not the way things work, and
yeah,
no, that's not going to.
That's the other. The thing that strikes me is just, it's bizarre, or mind-boggling, or whatever phrase you want to use. Like, she prepared for this. He was just going off the cuff. She had prepared for this with a staff and was expecting to, like, oh, he's not expecting this. How did she not anticipate all of those responses? Because I was like, yeah, that's what I was saying as I was watching the video. I'm like, yes, okay, he gave the exact code, which I didn't know, but he's just rattling it off the top of his head. And then he's describing it. I'm like, yes, that, good job. I mean, I was saying something similar, but not as articulate and not as exact. Okay. Yeah, that's... And he's winging that, and she's prepared, and she gets flustered. I'm like, what? How inept or incompetent do you have to be to not prepare for that situation?
Because the issue is, she doesn't actually have a firm ideology. She doesn't believe the stuff coming out of her mouth, right? For this guy, that's his job, and he believes in what he's signing, or he wouldn't have signed it. He believes in trying to preserve life, but also trying to protect our borders. So he's going to sign the things that make the most sense to try and balance those two out while keeping stability in our law intact. So it's just, he has his reasons why he believes that. Her, she's reading from a script and is told to say these things, but when you're doing a script, it becomes very tough going off script because it's not her normal thought process.
Yeah.
Right? This is the difference between somebody who can, memorize a bunch of passages from a book or, religious text, and they can spit it back at you, but when they don't actually sit there and live it or believe it, they still have no idea what they're talking about. It's just words they memorize. They don't understand the logic or the thought behind it because it's not part of their belief.
Yeah, that's also... that's or if they do believe it, they believe it shallowly. Like they never thought and researched it. They never got the underlying, the foundation required, which is often how these people can have. I believe this thing, and I also believe this thing that contradicts it, and they don't see the clash because it's like, wait a minute, the foundation for that, those things are directly opposed to each other. They never considered that. This is why those types of people will claim that gender isn't real, but also sexism.
And also transgender.
Yeah, gender's not a real thing. Oh, how dare you? You're just saying that because I'm a woman. What? But you just said gender wasn't a thing. Yeah, these people can believe those contradicting things all at the same time because they haven't scratched below the surface. They're like, wait a minute, these things these things contradict each other. Yeah,
putting out controversial, progressive talking points and saying, "Hey, I support it because it's new and it's fresh and it's progressive," and they never sat down to think, "What am I even talking about? Does this make sense to me? And is this something I live and breathe?"
All right. Oh, let's see. It's already 8 o'clock, and we've got a couple other. Okay, so I've only got 2 more topics, so we should be able to wrap this up by 9 o'clock. All right. So the next topic is something that's pretty unfortunate. Don't have a good transition into this, but story. There's not a whole lot of details on this, but it's so an unfortunate young lady who had a following on, I think it was on Instagram. I'm not 100% certain on because I've never heard of her before, but everybody just keeps calling her Bianca. I don't know if that was her screen name or if that was her real name, but a stalker found her and killed her and cut her head off. This has been going around the news a little bit, at least this story, and a bunch of internet personalities who they've all been like, yeah, they're like kind of like, yeah, we've all had our creeps, but this is a whole new level, and now a lot of them are freaking out because, yeah, that could have been them. That could have been Brittany Venti. That could have been, well, that could have been Belle Delphine when she's selling bathwater and somebody gets the address, and yeah. So the situation seems to be that this guy had interacted with this girl outside of just YouTube, or outside of just the social media platform. Like, sounds as if he had met her in real life. I don't know if that means just at some kind of convention or something along those lines, or hey, some kind of fan meetup. That's the details again on this are pretty sparse, but he had met her in real life, and then she. I don't know if she was interacting with somebody or was dating somebody else, or it's possible that she had led him on, and that seems to be the case, based on what a lot of people are posting about this, is that she was the kind of person who let her fans think that they had a chance and would kind of string them along, and then, either for views or for money or whatever. And this, I gotta specify, this is not justification for his actions, but it seems as if she's stringing a bunch of guys along, and one of those guys was a crazy person who, when he saw that she was doing this to someone else, or possibly attracted to someone else and was pursuing someone else, out of jealousy, he killed her, decapitated her, and posted her head to social media. Or posted the decapitated head, or pictures of the decapitated head, to social media to I guess to ward off other people that were trying to, other fanboys or whatever. It's so. I don't know if there's anything else to add to this story, but that is scary times. But it's also, it's kind of the situation is, we know crazy stalkers are out there. And like with the cases of rape and, assault and things along those lines, these women need to take precautions to protect not only or to protect themselves from people online, because there's a lot of people online that may seem, harmless and all that sort of thing, but that's how these incidents occur. Someone thinks they're he's harmless, he's not going to do anything. Let them get into their lives or find out about them, and then this what was that? Selena, right? The Hispanic singer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some late fan ladies, she's harmless, and end up killing her, right? That this is not a new phenomenon. But these types of people are out there, so the sensible thing to do is to not put yourself in situations that would allow those types of people to come to get to you. Like if you are in a situation where you cannot protect yourself, make sure that your information isn't publicly available, that people can't dox you because your stuff's not out there. Take huge concerns when you're talking about your security. And I know this is something that you've kind of been doing. It's like, you keep your kids off the camera and, don't talk about, where you live or, personal details that somebody could use to find you or, find out more. It's kind of...
that has no reason to be online.
Yeah. Partial detail, like broad details that could be applied to anybody, yeah. I think I've given out the city that I live in and possibly the state. But I don't care, because I'm not in a... I know if I'm in a situation where something like that would happen,
okay. So
I am not in fear of that sort of thing.
Couple things with this situation. Now, I'm not implying that this is what this girl did, or that this was her particular lifestyle. Maybe she just posted pictures on Instagram and had some followings. There's plenty of decent women out there that just like to interact with people and post pictures of whatever they're doing with their daily life. But there's also this increasing group called e-thoughts.
Yeah. And it seems like this person was that.
They entice men, they, goad them in, and hey, if you donate such and such amount of money to my Patreon, I'll do a direct live stream with you, and we can get to know each other, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, I'm not saying that's what this girl did. I don't know who she is.
Yeah, because you're just hearing about this for the first time, but based on what... I don't know firsthand, because I had never heard of this woman before the story broke. But based on what other people are reporting about it, that seems to be what she kind of was. She was kind of a thought.
Instagram model, and anytime I hear that phrase, Instagram model, that's kind of where my thought goes.
It's like,
they're the type to lead men on, and most of the men they're gonna find are incels.
Yeah.
Because any self-respecting man is not gonna be tossing $500 at some random girl on the internet.
Yeah.
They'll go out and meet a girl in their life and say hi.
Yeah, I just gave her $600. Hopefully she'll show me side boob. That's kind of the crowd that they cater to.
So again, I don't know this girl, and I'm not going to imply that that's what she was doing, but she was available on the internet. She did have a presence there. So I don't think that's something girls should be getting themselves into. Yeah, I know it's lucrative. They can make some good money. What's her name? Delphine with the bathwater. She makes millions of dollars. Yeah. And then there's some other Amaranth, whatever, that makes millions of dollars a year. So it's lucrative, but you're selling your body out. And no, there's no reason for a guy to come up and obsess and stalk you and rape you. But it's either you can go out to the park at daytime with a group of friends and have some fun, or you can go put on a slutty outfit and walk through alleys at night. Which one's safer? Put yourself in a situation where you're going to be safer.
Yeah.
If you don't want people, knowing who you are, then don't put yourself on the internet like that. Find a different way to make a living or earn your dream.
And so that's another side of this, is the popular ones, like the Bella Delphine, and the people who are out there that are kind of the more mainstream and have way more fans and are making millions at this. They don't interact with fans outside of public gatherings and things like that. They keep their private life very private. They don't hey, somebody met you or found out about you online or through your personality. Yeah, those are the yeah, one-on-one with them, not so much. Uh, they they try to keep those fan interactions just at public settings, gatherings, and things along those lines, never on an individual basis. And it seems like that's where this individual crossed that line. Because, like I said, he had met her in real life, but like I can't say for sure if it was just at fan gatherings or not, because it sounds like he he had been to her house before. Um, which yeah,
Yeah,
that,
I mean, either way.
I was like, that's yeah, he's got issues, but you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't care who you are. If you are a celebrity, you know people will find you because of your celebrity status. You don't invite those people into your private life. You have a public persona and a private life, and the two should not overlap at all. That's yeah.
Yep, agreed. Protect yourself if you're going to put yourself online and have any sort of personality out there. Don't give out any personal info. And for all of you guys that actually view this stuff, why? What?
I don't know. That's the thing that doesn't make any sense with the Belle Delphine, with the bath water, and I was like, do these people not realize that cam shows exist, where people will pay like $5 or $10 and see
in 24 hours.
Yeah, like, oh hey, $5 and I saw her completely naked and doing sex act that I dictated. It's like. I guess they're not as hot as Belle Delphine. I don't know, but I was like, if you're looking for money, that seems like, hey, that's more bang for your buck, right? And that, I mean, if you're into that, but because no, people are throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at these YouTubers that, like, I don't know what the appeal is there. It's like it's softcore porn, paying way more, and I'm like. I don't understand the appeal of either. I just, yeah. To me, it's a ridiculous.
If I were to go on a date again and decide, hey, I'm going to get back in the dating scene, I'm probably not even going to pay for dinner. So why am I going to hand over money to some girl online that I'm never going to see in person?
Yeah.
Who cares? There's tons of free junk out there to go get your jollies off.
Yeah. So as far as the free stuff, there's also cam show. There's other ways of doing this that seem like more for what you're given. But the other thing is, I don't understand quite the appeal of an empty relationship, which is what these are. There is no.
You're not gonna fall in love, and hey, you've been following her, chatting with her on screen. It's just like going to Hooters and they want to sit down at your booth and chat, so you order more food. It's that whole ploy.
It's an empty relationship, and the guys in these sorts of situations never get anything in return. Like, if it's an actual relationship, she would be willing to do things for you without you doing things for her. Like, she would actually want to do things for you, but...
This is why men need dads.
Yeah.
This is why boys need to grow up with dads. Dads can tell them, stop being a stupid jerk off online. Go meet yourself a real woman. Here's how you be a man. Here's how you do this.
Yeah. And don't waste your time with girls who are only after what you can give them. Go find a girl. Yeah, go find someone who is willing to give you a reciprocal relationship.
A real relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but again, I feel very sorry for this girl and her family. That's horrible news. I did not hear about
it's horrible news, and it's got a lot of online like a lot of female online personalities kind of freaking out at the moment, because this is fairly recent. I think this is like maybe.
Well, good. Hopefully, they all start to transition off that, do something else.
Yeah, and they're like,
and in their money, save it up, build yourself some money, and maybe when you get to your mid-30s, you'll have a nice house with a car. You can get yourself a pretty girl in real life. Stop blowing it online. I don't know.
All right. Well, so this is bit of a transition because this is the main topic I want to talk about is this because this goes back to the guys who are having or can't seem to interact with women correctly. And you mentioned incels, but this isn't just incels. This is a step beyond. This is more. Yeah. So when I first saw this clip, I thought the lady who posted was being a little over dramatic with her calling this guy a misogynist. I'm like, well, he's not a misogynist. He's just really angry and frustrated. But as further details came out about this guy, is like, oh yeah, no, he's a misogynist. He's just angry and upset with everybody, and he blames women for his own shortcomings. And shortcomings. That's okay. I can't say very much. This guy is about 5'2", maybe 4'11". Or sorry, he's about 5 foot, maybe 4'11", somewhere in that range. I'm 5'4". I can't really say much, but it's the attitude that this guy has where, oh, I'm short. I can't believe so many people are calling me short. Ladies do this all online. I'm like, and you can hear somebody in the video say, I just want a bagel. I'm like, you can be frustrated about your height and how women treat short guys, and I've expressed this online. I'm like, yeah, it's unfair. So what? But and a bagel shop's not a place to express. It's not a place to let this. This is not a conversation. It's that he is like the real life version of, sir, this is a Wendy's. Like he made that meme a real life incident. I'm like, yeah, you just get your bagel and get out. This is not a place for this conversation or for you to get angry.
Guys, so I watched part of the clip.
Yeah.
And I think we can both kind of relate because we're not the tallest guy. You know,
Yeah.
we're around like what, between 5'5" and 5'6". So,
You are. I'm 5'4".
oh, well, I feel pretty tall now.
Yeah, you're a whole inch and a half taller than me.
I'm like what, 4 inches shorter than average height?
Yeah. If
But-
you're 5'6". I don't think
Yeah.
you're 5'6". You're 5'5", 5'5 and a half.
Well,
Whatever.
Depends on how much sleep I get. Between 5.5 or 5.5 and 5'6".
Yeah,
Like
because
enough-
supposedly you start out a half an inch taller in the morning, and then as the day goes on, you lose about that half an inch. So it's because when you're
Well, I'm
lying,
in that
on,
range.
yeah,
But anyways, our grandfather, he's what,
5'2".
5'3"?
No, he's 5'2" at his tallest. I think he's 5'1 and a half to 5'2".
Yeah, he's a pretty short guy.
Yeah.
But he's married, he's got 8 kids, he's had a great life, and nobody in his history is making fun of him because of his height.
No,
He was a sergeant, like a well-respected sergeant in the
Yeah.
Army for, what, 30 years.
Yeah.
Because he never had the attitude where that mattered to him. He's always been very driven, direct, and worked well with people. He was just an honest, direct guy who loved people, loved telling stories, loved instructing. So it depends how you take your situation. Same way with
Yeah.
all those motivational speakers, like people born with missing legs or arms,
Yeah.
and yet people love talking to them. And some of those guys are even married and have families.
Yeah, that what's his name? Nick Gillespie.
The flipper guy.
Yeah, the guy who is just a torso, doesn't have arms, doesn't have legs, has a toe-like appendage coming out of his torso. He's married with kids.
Yeah. Because there's something attractive about a guy with charisma, drive, and self-esteem. And so this guy, I don't know what he's been doing his whole life. And yeah, it kind of stinks being short.
No, because Roaming Millennial posted a bunch of he's got a catalog of. I didn't know he had a YouTube channel, but she posted a couple of his videos, and you're like, yeah, this guy is just an angry all around dude. He's an a-hole
Nobody
to
wants
everybody.
be near the guy.
Yeah, and well, there's other videos of him pestering people. Like, I don't know if they're his friends or buddies or whatever, but well, he's laughing at strangers for their conversations and their misfortunes. He's antagonizing, I don't know, friends or coworkers or whatever, and then just yelling at random people. And this seems to be an ongoing thing, and then he blames everything on his short height. I'm like, yeah, and so, because Yeah, so this kind of, when I go on Twitter and I'm talking and I'm explaining a situation, I'm like, yes, this is a noticeable trend with women that they prefer taller guys, and it's not just a preference. Many women do have a height cutoff. They're like, yeah, I would never date somebody who is shorter than me. That is a common thing that I've heard from women. They're like, oh, 5'4"?
Oh, yeah.
No, wouldn't even try. Yeah, wouldn't even bother. Wouldn't even. Yeah.
The
I'm
cutoff
like,
seems to be average height.
yeah, that's it. A lot of women have the, if you're 5'10" and up. Yes.
Below 5'10", you're going to have a bit more difficult of a time, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
You may have to try a little harder, put on some extra charm, but running around like an angry dude, just yelling and saying it's all their fault.
No.
Would you like a really unattractive woman come up and say, you better like me just because?
Yeah.
That's not fair that you can say you're not attracted.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and so that's the situation I want to. It's very difficult to clarify that in 250 characters or in a even with a much longer YouTube comment, because I get so many people responding to me like, "Oh, you just sound like an angry person. Oh, how dare you complain about being single? I don't think it's your height, it's your attitude." I'm like, at what point was I angry in this conversation? I'm explaining a situation and adding observations, because. I guess it's the perception is like, in my head, I'm like, I'm sounding like Jordan, coming off as Jordan Peterson describing a situation. Like, yeah, this is the situation. I'm not saying whether it's fair or not. I'm just saying this is the case. And, okay.
It just means it makes it a little more difficult
for
shorter guys to find a girl or a date. But it's not impossible, and yes, attitude can play a big role. And shift it around, good sense of humor, nice haircut, dress well, present yourself well, keep yourself in shape. There are things you can do to put yourself at a better advantage.
Yeah, so here's the situation I mentioned. So Roaming Millennial and a couple other women in the chat, like Julie Borowski and Petty Nico, were talking about this, and they were like, yeah, it's the same thing as men with breast sizes. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not the same thing with men in breast sizes compared to women in height. And I was like, yeah, that's a false analogy because... So here's two examples that I came up with and I thought were, like...
So are they saying bigger breasts attract more men?
So, okay. Yeah. No, men are attracted to larger breasts in general, and women are attracted to taller guys in general. Guys don't have those breasts are too small, would never date.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's... I'm like...
Or formerly a dude in transition, and that's why you don't have any.
Yeah.
That's an issue, but...
So, here are the two examples that I brought up. Bruno Mars. Multi-talented, plays multiple instruments, sings, dances, charismatic. If you've ever seen the Uptown Funk video, dude's got swagger. I could see why women are attracted to him. There are women who say, 5'5", nope, not interested. There are women who, like, he's rich. He's rich, he's famous. He checks all the boxes.
Except the height.
There are women who would dismiss him purely on height. Compare him to Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande, A cup. Just based on... But there are very few guys who would say, Ariana Grande, A cup. Nope, not interested. Are you kidding me? There are guys drooling just by the mention. There are people certainly who would say Ariana Grande, no thanks. She's an idiot. She's an absolute moron. She's a pandering, lunatic. Okay, sure. Yeah, there's plenty of guys who would say no based on her past relationships or her appearance of being a slut. Yeah, but I'm
more guys prefer larger breasts.
Yeah.
But if they find a pretty girl with smaller ones who, they think they can get along with and it would just even pay them attention, they'll be like, hey, that's fine by me.
Yeah,
so
maybe Ariana Grande is not the best example. Okay, so let's flip. So the only other example I could think of, the Hayley Williams is a really good example because she seems like an all-around nice lady. Not so much in the chest area, but I don't know of any guys who would be like, Hayley Williams, hell no. But, okay, so another one is Taylor Swift. She's also pretty small in the chest area, but a lot of guys would be like, hell yeah.
Hayley Williams.
The Paramore.
Oh, okay. I thought the name sounded familiar.
Yeah.
This wasn't ringing a.
Yeah.
I mean, it did ring a bell. I just couldn't connect the face
Yeah.
with the name. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to. So I was trying to think of some female version that's also charismatic and yeah. Ariana Grande is attractive physically, not so
There's
much
a lot of
personality
women
wise,
that
but
have a height that they will not go below, and it doesn't matter who you are.
yeah.
Women
But-
want a guy that is definitely a few inches taller than them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a severe cutoff. Whereas most guys, they may prefer women with larger breasts, and I don't know if that's most guys. A good
But,
some
I mean,
guys
yeah.
like it like that, but it's not a deal breaker in pretty much any situation.
Yeah, it's not the.
Pretty,
Yeah,
and
so this is the example I brought up with like.
I don't care. She's into me and she's pretty, so I'm good.
Yeah, because what I was bringing up with the Bruno Mars situation is like he's got everything going for him, and yet there are some women that are he will never have a chance with. Okay, that's fine because he's focused on all the people he does have a chance with, but there are some women that he will never have a chance with. When you flip that on the other side and say the breast size thing, it'd be like, okay, that would imply that this is a plausible scenario. Sure, she's a millionaire, incredibly smart, likes me, shares my same belief system, and we get along really well, but she's an A cup. No thanks. Like, in what world would that ever... like...
I would say, even in that worst case scenario, women can go get plastic surgery and increase their breast size. Yeah, it's artificial, but a lot of doctors are good enough now, it's hard to tell. Nothing can make you taller other than going through one of the most painful surgeries on the planet and breaking your legs multiple times over and over.
To get like a half an inch.
Don't.
Yeah,
I would not recommend
the benefit is like half an inch to an inch. It's minuscule. Like
it's not going to help, and you're just going to do permanent damage to your body.
Yeah, you ruin your ability to run, permanent joint pain. Yeah, it's. I'm like, wait, how is this a legitimate practice?
And stuff later on, your bones just don't heal
because that seems like a medical practice that should not exist, along with bleaching someone's eyes.
What? You can do that?
What? Dude, you don't know about that one? The lady who was like, she really felt like a blind person, and so the doctor poured bleach into her eyes?
Okay, that lady. She thought she was blind, so she made herself blind?
Yeah. Like, that doctor should get disbarred, and same thing with doctors who do the leg breaking to make you slightly taller. Because they literally saw into your bones and break your legs.
So, I think the overall way to consider this is men are attracted to looks, but they're attracted to a lot of looks.
Yes.
Most men don't have one specific woman and saying, this is the only body shape and only hair color. They may have a propensity towards that type of, that type of woman. But men are overall more accepting of looks as long as you're within the general range of how women look. Whereas women seem to be more picky with who they're going to partner with.
Yeah. And I would say this
list, there's not really much you can do to get onto that list if you don't meet all of their requirements.
And I would say this is mostly just a first world problem or a U.S. problem.
Yes.
This is not so much a deal in other countries. Based on what other people have said and also my own personal experience with women from other countries, even if they are tall, and even if they're taller than the guy, like it's like in the U.S. it's something like 90% of women date the guys their height and above. In other countries, it's closer to like a 60-40.
Okay, well, this could be due to the whole, I guess, white knight men provider type thing. Modern Western society, a lot of women actually aren't asked to do anything. The whole stay-at-home mom and, help keep care of the home and cook and stuff. If the guy's going to go out and provide, you need to do something. That's kind of what get thrown out the window, especially with modern-day feminism. Women can go do what they want. So if they're looking for like a sugar daddy or a guy's going to provide, they just want the looks. They just want the best package that they can find.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any requirements. Whereas in other countries, the woman's going to have to work. So they're looking just for a guy who's going to provide and still appreciate what they can do and understand that they're going to have to put just as much effort.
Yeah.
It's more of a 50-50 relationship, whereas here, the guy's expected to do everything, and even then, he's still a misogynist pig.
Yeah.
I don't.
It seems to be because of some U.S. culture and how much power women have in overall dating, and how little reliance there is on the other person, which is why women, like, and that phrase, women need men like a fish needs a bicycle. It's ridiculous in most parts, but that's how women tend to act. At least most, or a lot of, and even conservative women and people who are against all this identitarian and stuff, they still
it's becoming more fun to be like that versus looking for a life partner that's going to be an equal match.
Yeah, well, it's because they have more options, and there's not that same requirement. Like, in some other countries where they're usually less well off, if you're trying to go it alone, you're going to have a terrible time. So women will settle for a guy who's not their ideal guy, but hey, makes things better, makes this whole experience easier. Okay, we got a good partnership going. In the U.S., women don't have that same requirement. They can be independent until their 40s and 50s, and it's not like I don't know how I can do this. They're like, yeah, they're living comfortably, they're not struggling. Sure, they may be lonely, or they may, but there's not that same reliance on having somebody else. It's not mandatory, or it's not as mandatory, I should say.
Probably till late 30s.
Yeah.
And then and then they are going to kick themselves and say, well.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, yeah. Granted, there's the fertility time clock going, but what I'm saying is,
most men find women at their peak attractiveness, early 20s to early to mid 30s. There are those guys out there looking for cougars.
Okay, yeah. So it's 30s is probably the cutoff because of that factor. Because usually women in their 20s and 30s, they don't have any problem finding a guy. They can go and be as selective as they want, and then once they hit that 40, now all the suitors are gone, and now they're trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel for whatever's left. It's because they've got an abundance of selection. It's because they've got so many guys after them and that sort of thing. They've got so much selection. They've got, whereas other countries, that's not as, it's not as predominant, because in many other countries, including some developed countries in Europe, there's still that struggle to be like, yeah, this is next to impossible alone. I need somebody in my life, and so they end up, hey, good enough. In the U.S., we have kind of a more spoiled mentality, or at least from what I understand.
It's more looks based, and then that causes for less real relationships.
Yeah,
and it causes for unrealistic expectations, kind of from both sides. I don't know. Western society is great, but it does have certain downfalls.
Yeah, and so part of explaining this was I was commenting to Roaming Millennial and those others, and I was explaining that the breast size is not an adequate analogy, and I don't think there is an adequate analogy when it comes to height, women's cutoff when it comes to height, and guys' preferences for women. There doesn't seem to be an equivalent, because I don't like that.
One cut off, the other is just a preference.
Yeah. I mean, there are hard cutoffs in behavior, like, she's a murderer, okay, no she's had 16 different boyfriends this year. Like, there's hard cutoffs like that, but not so much in the physical aspect, whereas for women, there are physical, like, nope. And, I shouldn't say there aren't any, because there are some, like...
Extreme obesity would be hard.
Well, that's also behavior related, but... I would say, like, it may not be a hard pass, but more like a soft pass is like someone who's missing a limb or an eye or some kind of deformity. yeah, I'd find myself kind of hard to be like I'm guessing I don't think it would be like she's missing a leg even though I like everything else about it. I don't think it would be a hard pass in that line. I'm not sure if I would ever get to know a person well enough if they have some kind of deformity like that or some kind of handicap like that. It's I think that's
like a Duke Bigelow moment, not realized till later, and you're like, well, I'm already here. Let's
Yeah.
see where this goes. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, but I like if somebody I can't see myself dating someone in a wheelchair. And actually I'm gonna say that would be a hard pass, even if it's something she couldn't control or if it's something, whether she was born like that or some kind of accident. I would say that would be a deal breaker for me because I would like to have kids, and if she's incapable of that because of her condition, I'm sorry, that's not. She could be perfect in every other way, but that would be a deal breaker for me, and that is a shallow physical reason. Although it's not completely.
Reason, that's
yeah.
An understandable biological reason.
Yeah,
that's one of the main components of even being in a relationship is the reproductive aspect to carry on your lineage.
Yeah.
Offspring, that's one of the major contributing factors. So,
yeah, well, I guess that's the same thing as like if she had a penis, then yeah, that's a deal breaker. So I think that's. Yeah. Anyway, when I mentioned that on Twitter, it was like, "Oh, you're just an angry guy," and I'm like, "What have I said that's angry? This was me explaining a situation." And then other guys like, "Oh yeah, but you can make up for that." I'm like, "Did I ever say I couldn't? Did I ever say that you can't do things like get wealthy, be charismatic, be outgoing, play an instrument, do something else to attract people to you?" Yeah, I never mentioned any of that because I was just highlighting the inadequacy of that analogy, and yet for some people bring up these non sequiturs as if I'm like, wait a minute, at no point did I ever say that.
Yeah, I think the instrument thing worked better like 20 years ago. And
yeah,
the guitar. I don't think that does anything anymore. Unless
Really?
you're actually in a well-known band, but just being able to play an instrument is no longer that appealing.
Yeah, I'm guessing those douchebags kind of ruined it. Like the guys who would break out a guitar for no good reason and then,
play a crummy little tune.
Yeah, and then play that every freaking time, and that's the only song they know. That would be me if at a party because that's my competence with the guitar, which is why I don't play it in public.
90s pop run crooner. Maybe that's a good phrase.
Yeah. So, I think I wrote some decent songs of my own, some original work. So that they're very.
No, you should play music because you enjoy music.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You want to play it. I'm just saying, as far as if you're trying to learn it to pick up women.
Yeah, that's not
a valuable pursuit.
Oh no, I have been writing songs since I was 12 or 13, and it's just I wanted to pick up an instrument so I could actually put them get them out there, get that yes, now it is actually a thing. It's not just in my head. It exists. It exists in the world. I'm
gonna go grab my guitar right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a guitar anymore at the moment. But I'll fix that soon. It's
acoustic.
Yeah. But I've got other priorities at the moment. But yeah, we'll see. Because I got one more week left in this month, and then I should hear a decision. Wait, not one more week. It's the 16th. What is? How many more weeks in this month? What?
2?
Yeah. No, it is about 1.5, because, well, I guess we gotta finish out this week. Okay, so it's about 2 weeks from now. I'll hear whether I got that, I guess it's promotion-ish? Yeah, we'll and that should change a lot of things, and if that happens, then I may have a lot more in my disposable income to go and pick up a guitar and start working on that again, because it's been been far too long since I've been able to practice my guitar. Anything else that we wanted to add or just? Oh, so there's a couple other things, but we're not gonna go full depth. Maybe we'll talk about them next week. Tommy Robinson got arrested and is going to jail. And yeah, this is so he's got a year and a half, and it's for the same thing. Yeah, like so maybe we'll talk about that next week after you look at it.
Going up at a protest or something.
Like no, it's for the same thing. For the same thing. For that comments outside of that court case with the gang rapes or the grooming gang.
That wasn't already settled.
It was settled, and then they brought it back up. That yeah, it's a weird case.
How they're gonna recharge him with what's already happened?
Yeah, it's the.
What's going on?
I don't know either, but that happened. I think that was yesterday. It's either he either went to jail today or is going to jail tomorrow. I'm not certain on that.
Yeah, something's really rotten with that.
Oh yeah, a lot of things really rotten with that. Considering the guys he was reporting on that got sentenced because they were running a grooming gang, they are out free. The guys he reported on, they get a 2-year leniency period where they don't have to report to jail yet. And one of them has escaped the country already. Alright.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, doing things right over there.
Dude, yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I guess... Well, I don't know if there's... Like, we'll talk about that next week. I think I covered the entire story. It's just... Yeah. Wait, did I talk about the White House summit?
The what?
The social media summit, did we cover that? Or was that before?
No, that was before the stream started.
Yeah, okay, so we didn't talk about that at all, so I guess that's kind of related. Oh, man, I wanted the small guy to be the... Whatever. Anyway, we'll cover... I jumped the gun on that. Yeah, okay, so I guess we'll talk about that, because this is kind of related to Tommy Robinson's situation. So the other thing that was related, and I was watching or listening to Gavin McInnes on this, Roger Stone, he's facing a similar kind of charge. Okay, so the Tommy Robinson thing, he's held in contempt of court, but they're not, even though judges have verified that he did nothing that would jeopardize the outcome of that trial. At that point, the verdict had already been made. He was asking the people how they felt before they heard the decision on whether they felt good about their chances. At that point, the decision's already been made. They're just being told what that decision is. Nothing Tommy Robinson could have done could have affected that. 2 judges already agreed on that. But then they brought it back up as a contempt of court charge, claiming that he broke some kind of rule that wasn't publicly available, so there was no way he could have known it was a rule he was breaking. And they haven't told anybody which rule it was he was breaking. So, yeah. And the other thing is they've been acting as if he was telling people to go to the grooming gang's house and harass them or get violent with them. But the entire clip is him asking the media why they are harassing him, why they are allowed to interview him at the court steps the same way he was asking questions to the grooming gang, and they don't get punished for what they're doing. He was asking them why they are so obsessed with him and his friends and the group of people that he hangs out with, and nitpicking every little thing they do, while they completely ignore the guys who were found guilty, and they're out there working their jobs, and they're living in their houses, and the media isn't doing anything with them. Like, Tommy Robinson has reporters outside of his house interviewing him as he comes out the door and that sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, why don't you go and interview those guys? Those guys actively raped children and had an entire organization around this. And you guys you're not even reporting on the story, but you're not even talking to those guys. You're not finding out what they're up to. You're more interested in what I'm up to because I reported on them.
Reality now plays a bigger, more important role over there than just general safety or well-being of the country.
Yeah.
He was acting a protected class which was the
Mm-hmm.
the immigrants that were over there doing this whole grooming gang, and since he attacked that protected class, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
We don't want to insult this protected class, so we're just not going to bring up all the bad stuff they're doing.
Yeah, and this.
Even if we can see it and there's evidence and we already know it's there, we don't want to insult them because they're protected. That's messed up.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is he was petitioning Trump for asylum for him and his family, and then nothing. Trump didn't respond on it. There's no comment on it. There's nothing. And it looks like Tommy Robinson, he's either in jail right now or he's going to jail tomorrow, and nothing is being done. And the last time he was in jail, he had all of his teeth knocked out. He had several attempts on his life, and that was for a 10-month lockup in a prison that was less intense than the one he's anticipated to go to. I guess that's the way to say it. The one that he is
sending him to a death sentence.
Yeah, the one that he is projected to go into has a very high Muslim population and has all of the worst of the worst, according to him. So it's like hey, the guys who were violent terrorists, yeah, they're putting me in jail with those guys. Because they had attempts on my life at a jail or a prison with less violent guys, with less, extremist guys, and he still barely made it out of that alive. Now he's going to a place with, So it's like going to a place where there are a few skinheads, and then going to a place where there is David Duke, and actually maybe he's not the best example, but something along those lines. Yeah, now you're going into a place with the head honcho of that group. So, yeah, unfortunate situation, and I hope he either gets his sentence commuted or gets to appeal or something along those lines. It doesn't have to serve the full 1.5 years, because I don't think he's going to make it longer than a month in that place. So the other one that's similar is the Roger Stone case, which he had his home raided by a SWAT team with CNN covering it and all that sort of thing. His trial is ongoing, so there hasn't been a verdict on his. But he got the charge against him is lying to Congress, and he faces several years in jail over this. What? So the situation is, they asked him whether he had gotten an email from Assange, and he said no. And then apparently he had an email from Assange that is a meaningless email. It has no information. There's no real. It's something like, hey, in a couple of days I'm going to release some information. Be ready for it. That's the extent of the email. Like, if you can read the text and you're like, that's it.
And they swatted his house and they're going to send him to jail. Is just because of perjury. That's all they're saying.
Yeah. That's the charge against him, is perjury. Because he said he didn't get any emails from Assange, and he did. He got this email saying, oh, I'm getting ready to release something, be ready. What?
So I agree that that offense doesn't warrant the punishment he's getting, but that is still technically perjury. There should be some...
I don't understand how that could be, because it's kind of like I guess he should have responded, he should have responded, not that I know of. Instead, he responded, no. If he said, not that I know of, well, then it'd be like, or not that I can remember, or not that I can recall. They're like, well, you did get one, so, but you said not that you know of, or not that you recall. Okay, but he said no. That's the problem. He said, no, I didn't get your email. Because either he looked over it and was like, okay, this is nonsense. Based on the context of the email, that's kind of like, it's the equivalent of spam in your inbox. And you're like, yeah, click delete, all right, next. If it was something like, oh, here's the document, and like he would have remembered that. But it's kind of like okay, why are you wasting my time announcing something that...
Whether he knew that email was there and was trying to hide it, or if you just glanced over and forgot about it and thought nothing of it because there was nothing in it. It's kind of the intent.
Yeah, should be the
Not
intent,
anything,
and
nothing to hide, no intent, no crime. So they need to investigate that before just assigning him years in prison for not
yeah.
even knowing he got a stupid email that had
Well,
nothing in it.
if you remember, that's kind of similar to the General Flynn situation where he said, "Oh no, that never had any contact with them beforehand and all and then it turns out, oh, okay, there was one that was before it was finalized. Oh, well, and then he kind of fell on his sword over that, and I was like, dude, are you serious? Like it's not that you were trying to cover up an interaction. It's just like, yeah, no. Everything that we did was after he was confirmed and after he was what's the inaugurated. Yeah, after he officially became president, that's when communications opened. Like, oh, but there's a meeting a couple of days before that. And it's like, but yeah, that was kind of like a preliminary meeting where nothing was really discussed. And I don't think he should have been held accountable for that, and Trump didn't think he should have been held accountable for that, and yet General Flynn was like, I got to tender my resignation over this, and I was like, that, to me, that's what the Roger Stone situation is, and it's like, that's not there's a legitimate case being like, yeah, this was so inconsequential because nothing important was discussed or was presented. When you ask him if he had contact with Assange, or if Assange sent him an email, or if you talked with the Russians, the implication behind that is, did you discuss anything of importance? It's kind of like have you ever talked to, okay, so, I guess, I don't want to draw this huge analogy, but, I'm trying to think of somebody who we both met. Like
I mean, I get it. They're kind of big questions, and so they.
Well, it's kind of like if one of our friends was caught doing something illegal, and then the FBI comes up to it and is like, "Have you ever talked to this person in the past year?" And you're like, "No." You can assume that it's related to the crime, not the, "Oh yeah, but yesterday you said hi to this person. We've got a text message." I'm like, yeah, it's not relevant to what you're investigating. So when you ask me, have I talked to this person in the past year, that didn't cross my mind, because it's like, oh, how are the kids? Yeah, how was your day at work? I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's a conversation that you would be out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. It's like when somebody is investigating someone for smuggling drugs or something like that, and like, when was the last time you contacted this person? Have you had any contact with them in the past year? And you're like, no, because you're assuming it's about the drug relation. Like, they're asking you if you knew about the criminal activity. And if you're like, no, and then like, aha, we caught you because you said hi. Hi, how's it going? How's the job? How's the wife and kids? Aha, we caught you in a lie. And like, that's what this is. It's that's the unrelated to what you guys are trying to catch me on.
Yeah.
And that kind of, it's unfortunate that both of those cases are going on. It seemed, and that Tommy Robinson was ruled against him. That's a huge blow for justice. And the reason, let's try to transition this into the White House summit, social media summit, because it seems like Trump has this stance for freedom of speech and for protecting justice, and yet he's been completely quiet about both of these issues, and his Justice Department is actively pursuing Assange, which, to me, I was like, that seems like a clear-cut case of pardon. Immediate pardon of Assange, because I don't get what the crime he's supposedly supposed to have committed. Like, to me, Snowden and Assange, it should be a no-brainer pardon of their action, or pardon of the offense, because of the good that they did, because they released secrets that exposed a corrupt government. The crime that they're trying to get them on is some petty nonsense, and like, yeah, this is, to me, it's like Assange, they're trying to get him. It's like, oh, he suggested they break this password. Like, well, did he do anything to actually break the password? No. Did he get software to break the password? No. He suggested they break a password. And that's okay. That's this huge criminal offense that you're gonna drag him through the mud and you're gonna have this trial over. Like, if you're out there having a social media summit, you know, like, oh, free speech, and the one of the main contributors to making or to utilizing free speech in the way it's most like, okay, I should specify, freedom of speech is the ability to say whatever you want without repercussions. And while it does defend people to be Nazis, you know, to hold Nazi, you know, hold KKK rallies and be Nazis and be, you know, these white supremacists, but it, more importantly, that freedom is there so people can speak out against injustices without the government coming and cracking down on them. It's like, in order to have safety, to say what is true and what is right and what people need to know, you have to allow the crazy weirdos to say what they want. You can't censor those crazy weirdos without using that censorship being used to silence people who are speaking out against injustice. The two go hand in hand.
So I charge him with like hacking or
Yeah.
illegally obtaining information, or
No, he
the
didn't
fact of releasing it.
They're trying to charge him because it's the intent to hack a government system or something like that is the charge. And you're like, because he suggested it? It's like...
But if he didn't do anything, he can have all the intent he wants. If he didn't do it, you can't charge him for doing it.
So it's not... As far as we know, the attempt never occurred. So how is intent? That's like... okay, so if you
story, right? Where he said his friend got raped or beaten up or something. And then so he kind of pegged it on black people, or got this thing in his head where he's angry, and so he goes sit outside of bars where, you know, black people hang out a bit more often, and he would be intent to wait for someone to come out that matched this guy's description so he can go beat him up.
Well, it wasn't just somebody that matched their description. It was somebody who deserved it. Like somebody, oh, this guy's, you know, causing a scene, or this guy's being violent. Yeah, he was looking for an excuse to beat somebody up.
Correct.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't, and later on, you know, his mind slowly cleared. He said this wasn't right.
Yeah.
And he backed off of it. He had the intent, but never actually did anything.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, people get bad ideas in their head, but if you haven't done anything, you haven't done anything.
Yeah, it's like that scene from Minority Report where the guy is like asking for a scenario where he can kill his boss and all that sort of thing, and it's like, it's people have that intent all the time, like, oh, I'm gonna kill them, and then you're like, oh, but yeah, then rationality returns and you're like, oh no, that would be bad. Why was I determined to do that? A good thing I didn't act in any way, shape, or form on that.
Yeah, so
would you hold somebody like, oh, time to go to jail for thinking that? That's essentially what they're doing with Assange.
Work. If you have committed an action that was illegal or broke the law, you get charged on it. And if it was an accident, no intent, then it's a lesser sentence or a lesser punishment than if there was intent. But just having intent and nothing happened, you know, no action, nothing happened, you can't charge people for just having intent. Now, if you incited violence, that's something else, because that's a call to arms.
Yeah.
That's a call to have someone else go hurt a person or assassinate somebody. You know, you can't do that. But if your intent was to do something, but you never actually did any of it, I don't understand what. I don't know. So I don't know if they're just kind of butthurt because certain things did get hacked by whatever.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, this is the FBI, the same FBI that has been investigating Trump for 2 years for colluding with Russia, because that's how he won. That's the only way he won. No, it's the same people. This is an extension of that, but Trump could shut this down and just be like, yeah, full pardon of Assange. He's free to go. Yeah, thank you for doing America a great service.
Iffy area, because I mean, it seems Trump has a good chance of getting reelected in 2020, but he also needs to be careful where he's stepping.
Yeah, that might lose him some favorability, and the Democrats would never like, oh, look, his collaborator on covering up he gave him a full pardon. This is clear corruption. Yeah, I can understand the angle there. It just seems
of his second term of presidency, then he can do a full pardon.
Yeah,
and say, I'm not available president anymore, so this isn't going to affect me anyways.
Yeah, it just seems that seems a little two-faced to have this summit where he's celebrating social media and freedom of the speech while the Assange thing is going on, while the Roger Stone thing is going on, and yeah, like you were saying earlier, it doesn't seem like much actually got done. A lot of it was behind closed doors without any public coverage, so we don't know the extent of what happened, and even the people in attendance weren't allowed to record the situation. So even though they're social media people who, for the most part, bring their cell phones to places and record themselves and record live events, and for some reason this summit was something that was not recorded in that same manner.
I think there's a reason for it. I think what Trump is trying to do is build a task force that is able to go out and collect evidence of either multi-business collusion, Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube and Google. Are they organizing against individuals? Have they gone beyond one entity being a monopoly? Is it now just the whole tech industry as a massive Goliath of a monopoly? And are there things that they can do to break up those monopolies and easier or better define what a publisher versus a platform is and whether any of them are in violation and now get cut off? But if things like that are being discussed in public, that allows these companies to kind of prepare for whatever may be coming at them.
Yeah.
And hide it up, hide whatever they were doing, fix their algorithms temporary so it can look like they're not biased and are running as platforms. So if they're just discussing this and he's just saying, hey, things are coming, things are in the works, I just want to hear your guys' perspective, but trust me, stuff's going to happen. Because, Trump, that's the way he talks. But he does have action behind those words. He just kind of launches it, and it's like the day before he puts out on Twitter, hey, this is happening, and the next day, there it is.
Yeah. So I hope that your speculation there is correct, but unfortunately is just speculation at this point. But that would be amazing. And the other thing that would be amazing is he did have some people on there or in attendance who are developing either who are developing or have access to things like Minds and Gab and those. Yeah, they're either familiar with those platforms or familiar with the creators of those. I would hope that he's kind of looking at, can we get a alternative out there to replace these? Is there something that we can support that we can? How do we get these to become dominant and knock out the kingpins here?
That's what I'm thinking. Either how do we break up these monopolies, or how do we allow competition to arise so there no longer is a monopoly?
Yeah.
How do we get fair competition in play? So, again, that's all speculation, but I think that is kind of his goal.
Yeah.
Because that was right now, extremely biased, just way left-leaning. It's all been Trump bashing since 2016. There has to be other alternatives to get just mainstream right-wing thought out. That has to be allowed. It's part of the American idea of free speech. So I think he's working towards something. But yeah, not really much news that came out of it other than they met.
Yeah, so that was something that Tim Pool mentioned, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that, but he's exactly right. Trump has about a third of Twitter following him. If if he decided to close his Twitter account, now he can't block anybody under whatever court order. He could close his account permanently and tell everybody, hey, I'm moving to another platform. And that would immediately, Twitter would be pretty much left in the dust, and that new platform would take off. Be like, oh, this is the only place I can get, direct messages from the president. The instant influx of hundreds of thousands of users overnight because he's got that sway. So if he were to switch to something like Gab or Minds, Gab would probably be, well, that's that would be the one flaw, is that Gab isn't available on iPhones or Android anymore. So cell phone users, the primary way or primary interaction with Twitter is over cell phones. So that would be, they would need something that could be on a cell phone in order to replace Twitter. But I was surprised at how low Twitter's numbers are, and how much interactions they got. I was like, yeah, that's a platform where all it would take is one swift move from somebody with that much of a pull to pull almost their entire audience to a new platform. That's pretty crazy.
And on a side note, I heard a joke earlier, or read a joke earlier today on the comments of somebody's videos, and something we were talking about triggered it. But why doesn't Trump wear glasses? Because he's got 20/20.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, did you see Freedom Tunes video where he went over the Democratic debates, and at the end of it, the commentators were like, "So what are they all really saying? Vote for Trump in 2020." that was the entire Democratic pitch.
Yep. I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, it's still up in the air, but it's just a clown show on the Democrat side.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a landslide no matter what happens. I think he's got it in the bag.
Well, last election, it was just Hillary and Bernie. Nobody else was even considered. And then Bernie kind of got stabbed in the back so they could boost Hillary a little further. They still lost. Now, nobody knows. I mean,
yeah. Because for a while there,
this debate, but there's other people still out there running that weren't in that debate.
Yeah, for a while there, Biden was in the 30s and 40s, and everybody else was in the teens and maybe 20s. Now everybody's in the 20s, and you're like, well.
Kamala Harris down a peg, but she didn't actually go up at all. Pulling each other down further.
Yeah, it's kind of like bucket of crabs. It's kind of like bucket of crabs, where everybody's pulling each other down, and hey, you're rising up too high. Let's all, and then everybody's kind of like, why are you guys all pulling at 5%? Well, everybody's equal.
Because they represent socialism. Things never go up. It's just pull everyone down to the bottom. That's how that works.
All right.
No.
Well, so that was the last topic. But it is kind of is very encouraging to see all the people that were invited to the White House summit. We had James O'Keefe, Mark Dice, Flicka. Who else was there? The Carpe Dunctum.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
He means.
Well, I mean, Trump's been tweeting out his memes for a while, so it's like, yeah, he's actively following Dunctum. Who else was there? There's a couple other. But it's kind of. Well, James O'Keefe was the big one because, he's the one. Project Veritas has been exposing a lot of this with actual documentation, and he's got as far as I'm concerned, an impeccable track record when it comes to this. The claim against him, but he was convicted. It's like, yeah, he was, because what he did, it's a technicality. He was operating, or he fiddled with a phone while impersonating a phone repairman. And that's like, that's damaging government property or something like that, or something about government property under false pretense. And like, that's a stupid technicality, and that's the crime they caught him for. And mainstream media's like, see, he's not reliable, he's a criminal. Yeah,
that's what
nonsense.
The government does. They went and tapped Trump's office.
No, he wasn't even tapping the phone. All he did, it wasn't tapping the phone. He was impersonating a phone repairman in order to get information inside. But because he actually touched the equipment, that was considered tampering or something along those lines. Some minor technicality. And you're like, really? Like, he didn't do anything with it. Oh, and they they were filming on a cell phone, and then they described it in the court order as like a small portable camera, and like, it's a cell phone. It's like the acting. It sounded as if he had this intense spy gear or something like that, and you're like, what?
Smartphone. Everyone has those.
Yeah, everybody has a smartphone, and lots of people film with them. But the way it was described in the court document, you're like, it sounds like he is using spy gear and he's like actively infiltrating these places and placing bugs on it. Like, not what was going on at all, but whatever. They made it sound more sinister than it actually was, and it was a minor technicality. Anyway, but James O'Keefe at the White House is pretty cool. And Mark Dice is another pretty big YouTuber and pretty good guy for all around, from what I can tell. Oh, there's something else I've been meaning to talk about in these, but I keep forgetting to write it down. Remind me next time. I do want to talk about Owen Benjamin, because he's been going off the deep end lately.
He seems like he's kind of lost himself.
Yeah. So I don't think... Well, I'm trying to wrap this up because it is after 9 o'clock and I gotta go. Yep. But, yeah, we'll talk about that next week, and maybe that'll be the main topic if I don't forget. Actually, I'll write it down as a note for next week. Because I've been talking about him on these streams, and I've been a pretty big fan for a while, but the last month or so, he went too far for me.
Yeah, I think he's gone into, like, deep conspiracy territory or something. I don't know.
Like, I'm all for conspiracies, but he's been out there. Anyway, well, I guess I'll leave you with a cliffhanger. Anybody who's actually watching, nobody's watching this. I got 0 viewers. Oh well. Oh well, these are still fun conversations, and even if I never get any viewers ever, it's good talking to you. And I wish I had somebody that disagreed with us, that wasn't like out of their mind insane like Ham. That's just argumentative to be argument. Like if there was a couple of people like that we used to hang out with. That let's see, what's his name? The math teacher guy. The guy with the bird. What was his?
Oh,
wow.
The wolf. Lonely Wolf guy?
Yeah, Lonely Wolf. Man, could not think of the name. Yeah, that guy, yeah. Or someone like Tim Pool's, like, yeah, we could disagree on something, but at least, hey, sensible, could have a decent conversation. Not, hey, you're racist and you're, whatever, misogynist. Yeah, that's what Ham turned into, like that. Someone I could disagree with you, but we could have a nice discussion. I wish I had somebody like that to bounce ideas. But I mean, it's great talking with you, but unfortunately, we agree on too much.
Yeah, there's not a lot of things to discuss from opposing viewpoint.
Yeah. All right. But on that note, I will go ahead and end the stream. Thanks to anybody who does end up watching this, and see you next Tuesday.